All right, welcome back to another episode of the Bold American Podcast presented by Barstool Sports. A lot going on, a lot to get to, a lot to talk about just in the last 72. The government's still shut down. We're not really going to go into that other than the fact that it's still shut down and it's quickly approaching the longest shutdown in our government's history, which is not great. There's a Guardsman who's been charged for working with Russian intelligence. Not great. The Navy is currently reviewing Marines and sailors' social media posts, potentially putting the clamps down on that. Across the country, no more exact change. Money in this country is changing, and we'll get into why. And then finally, I had the opportunity to sit down with the director of the new documentary about the Army rugby team, Brothers on Three, Seth Mullin. Great interview. I think you're going to really enjoy that if you are a rugby fan, if you are not a rugby fan. Just an interesting guy. So I'm looking forward to having everybody have a listen to that. But before we get started with all of those, and before we get into the last 72, we wanted to introduce another member of our team. So this gentleman joined us, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. I don't even know when it was. You can bring him up there, Sands. Someone we, what's the word? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the word. Adoringly? No, that's not a word. Affectionately. That's the word I was looking for. Affectionately called WTC. His name is William Tyler. He's been helping us behind the scenes, helping us prep for the shows, helping us on social, and maybe you've even seen his face on our social media channels. So we thought we'd be good stewards of our show. Bring him on, introduce him, allow him introduce himself, and just tell everybody a little bit about who he is and where he's from. So with that, William, I'll throw it to you, buddy.
Thanks, Cons. Appreciate it, man. It's been awesome. It's almost a month. I came in, I think, October 5th or 6th. So we're right at a month. So it's been great being here. I guess just a little bit about myself. I'm from Texas originally. I went to Sam Houston State University and did the ROTC program there. I actually enlisted in the National Guard while I was at Sam Houston, and did basic training in between my sophomore and junior year, and then kind of continued on with ROTC after that. And then I graduated, commissioned as an intel officer. I was planning on going active duty just about the entire time I was in ROTC, but I had a really good commander in the National Guard who kind of convinced me otherwise and showed me that I could have a civilian life and a military life at the same time. So I decided to stay in the Guard. And I did that. I had a global logistics position. That was like my first job right out of college, and was doing both of those until I deployed in 2012 as the S2 of an infantry battalion out of the Texas Army National Guard. We went to Western Afghanistan, and I hung out there for about 9 months with my guys, and then extended my deployment 3 months and stayed in country, went to Kabul and worked with U.S. Forces Afghanistan. And I was the military assistant to the chief of staff for US 4A for 3 months there. So that was a really cool position, very interesting. I came home and stayed in the Guard a little bit longer, eventually got out of the Guard, started working in production. When I came home from my deployment, I moved to Los Angeles and kind of fell into the production side of things, started realizing that there were people that had jobs that they actually liked, and thought, hey, there's a novel idea. So I started kind of volunteering on set and trying to get my foot in the door there. It eventually worked. I did pretty good there for a while. Worked for a few years in the industry. COVID kind of knocked that out, and eventually was living back in Texas at the time. So I went back to some traditional stuff, was trying to kind of find my way back into the industry, and decided to go back to school. And that's where I'm at now. I go to Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida. I'm at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. So it's a really cool program. We do a lot of different sports stuff. It's really designed to go make you like a local sports reporter. And I was always a fan of your old podcast, Cons. Watched a lot of Zero Blog 30. And so when I saw you guys had kind of rehashed it and brought this Bold American podcast online, I thought it'd be a really cool opportunity to get my foot in the door and meet some people over at Barstool Sports. And it's been awesome. It's been a great last month since I've been here.
It's awesome. And we've enjoyed having you. And I think it's interesting what you said there about the path that you've taken and being a little bit unconventional. I think
definitely
people coming out of the military, I feel like so often they go into, these prescribed roles and industries, and there are a few onesies and twosies that go into other areas, but largely you find veterans doing a lot of the same stuff. So I think it's fascinating, and you'll hear it when I talk later with Seth, when people get into different avenues like the entertainment industry. So I think that's very cool. Is that something like you are always wanting to be a sportscaster or work in sports, or just kind of like it came about as you got done with your time in the military?
Yeah, it was something that was always in the back of my head. I grew up in a small town, like really, really small town in Texas. And so there was nobody around me that even entertained that as like a career path. And so I think I didn't either growing up as a kid. And I raced BMX bikes when I was a kid. And so I loved watching like old skate videos and BMX videos and stuff. And so I don't know, I always thought like in my back of my head, like, man, that's a cool thing. Like I wish I knew how to make videos, but I didn't even really consider it as a career. But then obviously, you grow up and you start to realize like, okay, somebody's getting paid to make all these TV shows and these documentaries and stuff like that. And so I just started to kind of look into it. Actually, while I was deployed, I started to kind of dig into it to see like how it all worked. And then I took a pretty big leap. I mean, I moved to LA. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't have any experience. At that point, I didn't have any education or background in it. I just was like, kind of like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. And really what I did is I signed up for acting classes. My landlord at the time gave me the idea. He was like, I got a buddy that he was trying to be an actor. He signed up for acting classes and he met all these people and now he's like a producer or something. And I was like, well, that's definitely a place to meet some people that are in the industry. So I signed up for the acting class that was closest to Hollywood on the map. That was how I picked it. And it worked out. I met people there that like let me volunteer on their projects and kind of showed me how it all worked and stuff. And then one day my phone rang and they were like, hey, we heard that you're a production assistant. Some guy didn't show up. Are you available? And I was like, absolutely. So that was like how I got my first paid gig. And then it was off to the races after that. But
yeah. Tyler, I got a question for you. What was the best set or like maybe one of the most memorable sets, movies, shows you've been on to date?
Man, I've been on some cool ones. I've done some fun ones. I got to work on a show called Border Live. It was very similar to Cops, if you remember the old school Cops show.
Oh, yeah, I know that show. Yeah.
It's a crazy show, and this show that I was on was gnarly. We were running around with Border Patrol and sheriff's departments doing like drug raids and busts and chasing people on the border and stuff. So it was pretty wild. It was me and another infantry guy, believe it or not, ended up working together on it pretty closely, and we were kind of teamed up and running around in bulletproof vests and cameras instead of guns. But it was kind of like reminiscent for us. It was cool.
That's dope.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Well, you've been doing some
more mainstream stuff. My bad.
I was just gonna say you've been doing some awesome content for us. So
thanks.
Just well done.
Yeah, keep it up. And now the house is not evenly divided, Army versus Navy. So, before you came and joined the team, Tyler, it was 2-on-2, me and Cons, the Army, and then Ryan and Sands, old Sands, producer Sands, were holding it down for the Navy. So it's nice to have another Army guy on board.
Yeah, a nice Army guy, I'll say.
I feel like Tyler's got some. I think in a couple months, once he gets comfortable, he'll start unleashing some shit. I can see it. He's being the nice guy. He's new. He's checking it out. He's doing the right Army officer thing. You kind of shut up and listen and learn, and then before you know it, he'll start.
There may be something to that.
Some jabs. Yeah.
He was nice about Navy once, and then Khan scolded him, and then he's been kind of mean since.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool to start, but
that's facts, Sands. That's facts.
I remember that. I remember that text day. That was good.
Yeah, the group chat's always fun.
Yes. No, we really like having you though, man, and keep it up. And if you're not already and you're listening, go follow Tyler and pay attention to all this stuff because he's doing a great job. So appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much. Love you guys.
Thank you to WTC there. Great to have him on board. Love having another Army guy in the mix. Another Army officer. That's interesting too. 3 Army officers. But hey, we still got the enlisted side with Sands, so that's good. All right, yeah, really quickly, we'll jump into it. The government still shut down as of today. It's 34 days. Once we get to Wednesday, it will be the longest shutdown in government history. and it doesn't seem like there's any signs of
Not anytime soon.
nothing, which is really, really sad. So I don't know where we go from here or how that gets fixed. Because what's crazy is I think, obviously the world has kept spinning, right? And our country didn't come to a screeching halt. It's just like these government employees essentially are just having their entire lives disrupted, and it's not fair to them. And there are some serious programs that are being impacted. And, one that comes to mind is the SNAP program, and they're finding other ways to get that funded right now in the meantime, which is fantastic that they're figuring out those workarounds. But those workarounds can only be that, I think, for a short period of time, and a workaround. So we need to figure this out and get the government back on track. But
do you know that service academies, the cadets and midshipmen, and I don't know what they call Air Force. Are they cadets too?
Cadets. They're cadets.
No,
as well.
they're called country club members.
But they're not.
Losers.
They're Rob. Jeez.
Well, we just beat them. We just beat them on Saturday, so it's only fair.
Okay. Well, what I was sharing is they are not getting paid.
The cadets are not getting paid?
No. So, and I guess it's, again, they're housed and they have food, but they can't take another job. It's not like they could go work at
They definitely are not allowed to do that.
I'm going to say something.
I'm just giving you a fact. I'm not saying
I appreciate that, but let me be clear, and I'll speak for myself. I absolutely do not care that the freaking Service Academy students are not getting a paycheck right now because they don't need it.
You. Okay.
Oh my God.
They need to be focused on their studies,
You're hot.
military.
You're hot.
I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. They don't need it for anything other than, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't speak out of turn. Maybe some of them send that money home and help support their families. So if that's the case, I'm sorry. But in terms of the people who need to be getting paid right now, I would say they're very low on the totem pole. So
I don't think I'm going to talk this episode because I feel like anything I'm going to say, like Cons is just, he's so lathered up. He just, I'm just not. All
right, let's get into it. Last 72, Ryan. We'll start with you.
Let's go, Ryan.
I haven't done any. Nothing happened for me the last 72 hours. So
No. I will explain for you.
What?
I thought it was really cool. I was watching my local Las Vegas Raiders on TV, and then I saw the Travis Manning Foundation placement come up. As a marketing guy, I was like, "This is so cool."
That was every NFL game yesterday. Every game did a spot, which was, that was awesome. I kept getting all these texts.
Did you know that was going to happen? I wanted to save it for the podcast. I didn't want to text you, but did you know that was happening?
I knew that they had talked about running these spots. I did not know when it was going to happen. I didn't know what game, but they did it in all the games yesterday. So every game, cool. So that was all that happened in my last 72 hours, Connor. Okay.
No, but that was really very cool. I want to talk about that seriously because the world of VSOs, we're all plugged into it. Ryan, obviously, especially. We know the names of the larger organizations. We know a lot of names of even a lot of smaller organizations that are doing great work for our military and veterans families. Just like there's only 1% of the population that serves in the military, I would say there's probably only 1% of the population that can name more than like one VSO. Yeah. But by getting with the NFL, which has the eyeballs of America, that's how you become on that next level of VSO. So I think that's pretty awesome that Travis Mannion has that partnership and is getting their logo and their name all over these games.
I think I just got a really good brand marketing play for you, Ryan. You could say that you're the Taylor Swift of VSOs.
I mean, okay.
You kind of are because you're getting your shine. You're getting your.
I'm the Taylor Swift of VSOs.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that. I don't know what that means, but
I don't know either. You got to run with it though.
I'll run all day with that. So
yeah.
So Ryan, nothing else happened for you this weekend?
What do you want me to say? I sent you a text and I said, "Well done, Army. That was a great game." Is that what you want me to say? Great game. Great game.
No.
Army beat. What happened in the last 72 hours? Army beat Air Force. Army is still 4-4. Navy is 7-1. You don't like that. You want to call me a petulant child on Twitter? I mean, it is what it is.
No,
I don't
here's
know.
the deal.
And
Here's the deal.
I won't
Here's the
share
deal.
what you said to me via text. We won't even
Here's the
go
deal.
there. But go ahead.
Here's the deal.
Yep.
How many you guys still got votes to the AP top 25, right?
What?
You still got votes in the top 25, right?
I don't know. Did we? I wasn't tracking. I wasn't tracking.
No.
Honestly, I watched the Army game. It was a great game.
My point being, they could be 7-1, and that's great. But unless they win the conference, that record is meaningless. In my opinion,
that's facts. I agree.
Yeah. So
no cap.
Yeah. But wait, you didn't watch the Navy game against North Texas? One of the most exciting teams in the country?
I was watching both games.
Okay.
The Army game was arguably a better game, so I continued to watch that.
Where did you watch both games, Ryan? Were you in Atlanta?
Yes. And
was it?
And you said that Atlanta was a Navy town. Like that's not
everybody
true.
knows that. Yes, it is.
Who
Everybody
knows
Atlanta
that? Who knows that?
Everybody knows that. So don't come at me like,
That's
they're not playing the Army
that's
game.
not
It's a
true.
Navy town. Atlanta's a
No.
Navy town. Everybody knows
Oh.
that.
Okay. Well, I didn't
No.
find it on one television screen. Watched it on a phone.
Wasn't it on ESPN? Wasn't it? Couldn't you just ask the bartender, like, yo?
I asked them and they
CBS
were
on.
like, I swear to God, I asked at one bar and they were like, nobody wants to watch that game. So
Navy town. I get it. It's okay.
the Navy game wasn't on anywhere either. So
Yeah.
it was the Vanderbilt game was on everywhere.
No.
And the Penn State Ohio State game. But listen, I know you guys want to talk about it. I'll let you guys go. That was a great game. It was awesome. The last freaking 2 seconds of the game, that was what football's all about. So yeah.
Oh, thanks,
Well done.
Ryan.
Well done, Army. I can do that though. That's the difference. Like that's the difference. You know, if that game had been Navy Air Force, what are you doing? How are you showing up today? You're not showing up the way I showed up. You're just not. Maybe
Yeah,
Rob
but-
would. You're not. So whatever, you know.
But I mean, objectively, I have a different relationship with the Army football team than Rob does and that you do with Navy.
Yeah,
So I'm going to react differently.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
But you can still you should still be able to objectively say that was if that was Navy playing and played that game the way that Army did, you should be able to objectively show up and say, wow, yeah, that was well played. I'm just saying that's real growth. You should work on that.
I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to. No,
I think it's too late, Ryan.
I
I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
All right.
I don't want to. I am forever shaped, and I've shared on the show. I shared it like a month ago. How much disdain I have for things that were done to me by, those two schools and how they chose to run their programs while I was, playing as well. So
okay.
I don't like. But what I will say is it's great that Army won because now there's the trophy on the line come December. So that's great.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Can't wait.
December 13th, baby.
Can't wait.
Nothing. Did you do anything for Halloween on Friday?
I did not.
Nice.
Okay. Rob, last 72.
Halloween was pretty boring. My son's still too young to really do the whole house to house thing, but Connor, you'll appreciate this. I went to a really good friends of mine retirement, Army 20-year retirement ceremony. Class of 2005, Brian Jensen, artillery guy.
I saw that.
Awesome fucking dude. And it was a really proud moment for me because I look up to him like a brother. And to see the amount of people that came all the way to Las Vegas for this event, I mean, there must have been 150 people in the Irish pub for him. From
what was this, his retirement ceremony?
His retirement ceremony, yeah.
Okay.
Lieutenant Colonel, 20 years he's done. Shout out to Brian and Cons. Don't laugh at me, but I did need the script for the Army song when the Army goes rolling along.
Yeah.
I needed to read the script again. Does that make me a bad Army veteran?
Kind of.
No, I don't think so. Because we just don't really sing that song that I can think
Right?
of, like regularly,
Like-
where it would be ingrained. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, when we were in the Army for sure, but like it's been a couple years and I felt kind of bad, dude. I was like looking at the script and then looking up and then looking at the script. I was like, oh fuck, should I know this?
I feel like you should know that.
I feel like I should too. I
don't
still
know.
feel
I
kind of
mean,
bad.
I know the Marine Corps hymn. I've known it since I was like old enough to sing.
Yeah, but the Marine Corps hymn, it's like more that's like more about with their identity. And I don't know. That's just like a more well-known, like the Army doesn't hold the song in the same regard, I think.
We
as
have
the
a lot
Marine
of
Corps hymn.
storied tradition as a service branch, so I get it. It's just it's different for you guys.
I don't know though. I do feel kind of bad because I grew up as an Army brat. I've been at ceremonies since I was like 3, as early as I can remember. And so I did feel kind of bad. I was like, so I don't know. I'm going to try and remember it from here on out, guys. Army song. I'm going to start singing it. But besides that, beautiful ceremony. It's always nice to go out in Vegas for an Army event. But I did get a flat tire going into that Las Vegas park garage, and my car is still in the park garage. So after work today, or after we wrap.
Wait. Oh, okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I got freak accident. I blew a tire on my 4Runner going into the Mandalay Bay park garage on the way to this retirement ceremony. And it happened. I started hearing it like deflate as I left my car. So my car has been in the park garage for like 36 hours.
Why did you change the tire?
I need to get back to my kids. I didn't have time to fuck around. So, and I like made friends with one of the security guys. I was like, hey, I'll be back in like a day or two to fix it. He was like, cool. So
okay.
I got to run over and fix my tire, change my tire. Okay. So that's fun. Right. But yeah, I got to go remember the Army song after this. I'll start singing it.
All right. Please work on that. Yes. I'm not saying it's not a good song. I just I just can't think of times where we all
like, when was the last time you heard it, Cons? Like, when was the last time you probably heard it?
I don't know. 15 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, Halloween was hectic. My street is super busy. I was handing out candy for a good 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Shit.
Yeah. And then we had all of my daughter's school friends over and their parents. So I had a house full of people like in and out of the house. So we had like, like an early dinner / late lunch that we served, and
nice
kids were jumping in the bouncy house. I had a group of 12-year-olds, and that's the thing now, I think too, like, I think kids like get dropped off at different neighborhoods.
Yeah, totally.
Because I didn't recognize any of these kids, and there was like 10 of them, these 12-year-olds, and they're looking at my bouncy house, which is a Little Tykes bouncy house. It's made for people who are 4 or 5 years old and younger. It's not made for kids who are 10, 11, 12 years old. And they're like, hey, and some kids were like, hey, can we jump in your bouncy house? And I said, yes, of course, if they were of age to jump in the bouncy house. These 12-year-olds are asking me, and I'm like, nah, guys, I think you're a little too big. And the one kid looks at me dead in the face and goes, sir, are you fat shaming us?
Oh.
What? Am I fat shaming you? No, because you're not fat, but also it's my bouncy house. It's my property. If I say no, I don't need a reason. Get out of here. So I thought that was a little disrespectful. I think like these kids now, like,
Did he call you? Did he call you sir though? Did he call you sir? Oh, he did.
Fat shaming me, sir.
Oh, that's
I was very taken aback by that. I almost kind of like laughed it off, and it was just not what I was expecting to hear from a kid that age.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of felt like it's kids these days they're almost like too smart for their own good. And yeah, he threw the sir on there, but it was almost like he was trying to
I respect
look
that.
like a bad guy. So
what about the 6'7" thing, Cons? Are all those kids doing the 6'7" thing?
I maybe I saw it. I don't know. That thing that again, I'm showing my age, but I've looked it up. I'll admit, hand up, I've looked it up. I don't get it. It doesn't seem to make sense, and it's just one of those things now.
I think that's the intent.
Good job, Ryan. I think it's meant to be like that's mid, right? It's like it's a 6 out of 10 or something. Or what is it, Ryan?
I don't know what it is. I mean, my kids say it all the time. I have no idea what it means, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing. When I look at it now, it's taken on multiple meanings. Apparently, it means a bunch of different things. So I don't know. Anyway, and then yesterday was the New York City Marathon. Shout out to my niece Sydney who ran it, and first marathon, she ran 3:43, which I was impressed by.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was very, very good. She was shooting for 3:45 she ran 3:44. But so she beat the goal, which I was proud of her for that. But so then we're, at the after party and everybody's celebrating. And my wife just like put it on me. She's like, I think you need to run this next year. I said, why? She said, because it was her first time going to New York City for the marathon. And anybody who's been to New York City on Marathon Sunday, especially when the weather is nice, will tell you it's a great Sunday fun day. Yeah. She's like, I just want to have another reason to come back for Marathon Sunday. Let's I may be running New York City Marathon again next year. So,
yes, I love that. I fully support.
Yeah. Last thing about Halloween, dude, it's a problem. Okay. I have a lot of leftover candy for as many kids as came through. Like I over prepared because last year it was my first Halloween. So I didn't know what to expect. I ended up having to make 2 additional trips to get more candy. So this year I'm like, okay, I'm going all out. I'll make sure I don't have to run out mid party because I was also, consuming some adult beverages. And obviously I didn't want to get behind a wheel once I started drinking.
Yeah.
Now you have so much.
So now I have so much. And it's like, yes,
you got to detox. You got to detox, bro.
There's a ton of places that will take that,
So apparently that's what my wife said. She said there are places we can drop it off. So I'm going to have to do that. So,
yeah.
Right. Okay, let's get into some of these stories here. So story from stripes.com. Shout out to them. They're a great resource, stripes.com. I've been reading them for a real long time, which is the online version of Stars and Stripes. Are you guys old enough that you got the printed version of Stars and Stripes?
Hell yeah, dude. Growing up in Germany all the time. That was like the thing on base.
Yeah. So this person's name is Canyon Anthony Amaris. Let's start right there. I don't like when people have weird names. Like Canyon, that's not a first name. So that's already, I don't like you. And now he's believed to be in contact with Russian intel agents and trying to give away our secrets. He agreed to take photos of Fort Riley there in Kansas, and he's trying to ship his contact a helicopter radio.
Yeah.
And, March earlier this year, he traveled to Fort Riley from New Mexico where he lives, and he picked up the radio, took the pictures, and he's being charged with violating the Export Control Reform Act. But again, I have a problem with his first name being Canyon. I think that's a ridiculous first name, but also I'm not a fan of people trying to work with the intelligence agencies of other countries. And the only thing I can surmise here is that he's probably getting paid to be doing this, but now he's going to jail, so it doesn't matter. But what do you guys think about working with the Russians to take pictures and send them over there?
Well, they didn't give a lot of context on this guy. Maybe they don't.
Yeah. No,
they didn't even say where.
Yeah.
They didn't even say where he was stationed. I don't know if you saw that. I don't. He also, to me, and again, this is just. But if you look at his picture, he looks Russian to me.
Yes.
So that was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, okay, this guy looks Russian, and his name was a little bit. I'm not going to say I didn't like him because of his name, but there was something off about his name. I was like, I don't know. But if you scroll down on that Sergeant Stripes article, it has related articles. And it was actually, there's an article that talks about warning U.S. troops that, they are being targeted by Russian assets and to watch out for this kind of stuff. So, there are Russians out there that are just looking for vulnerable service members to be able to do this with.
This was happening when I was a fire support officer at Fort Bliss, 2012 to 2015. Ukraine was still kind of like somewhat in solidarity. They were kind of doing their thing. somewhat surviving without too much Russian influence. But like this was happening outside my gate at Fort Bliss. Like guys, young soldiers would drink in El Paso, become vulnerable, be exploited by Russian intel guys. And I mean, it's probably been happening for years, right? But there's probably so many more stories that we just don't hear about.
Yes, probably. Now, do you think these Russian intel agents are posing as people in our military or potentially
Probably honeypots.
Yes. Okay, that's what I was going to get at as well.
You know, any kind of ethnicity. I'm not really beholden to one of them, but like it's happening, I think, through the honeypot formula.
Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, honeypot is?
I'd say a person of the other sex, attractive, is luring someone in to gain intelligence, secrets, become favorable. But it's a ploy used by the other sex to extract.
Great name, by the way, for that description of what that is. Honeypot. I think that's a great name.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. But it's just so everybody's so
never heard that term.
You've never heard honeypotting?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. We might need a deep dive honeypot next episode.
Well, I'm going to, but
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, there were not a ton of more details in this story. But I do believe it's very possible that he was being offered money for this information, or it's possible the person was, as I said, posing as some superior officer that he got duped. I don't click on anything, any text that I don't have a number. I know people who answer the phone all the time. And if it's not a number I have saved, I don't answer the phone. So if it's important, people will leave a message and I'll call you back. I don't answer random numbers. I don't click on links. There's just too much going on out there. So be safe out there. Don't get honeypotted. Speaking of putting yourself out there, the Navy is just out of the blue from our friends at Task and Purpose. They are doing a review on how social media posts may have violated the Navy's rules of engagement there. So they are reviewing reports related to service members' social media activity. And this was, as I said, unprompted. What do you think about one, just posting while you were in the military on social media? And two, should people be getting in trouble for what they're putting on social media?
I mean, we've talked about this a lot, and I think two things. Number one, I don't think this is unprompted. I think this is very prompted. I think this is on the heels of the Charlie Kirk assassination, because they came out with a warning then. But I also think that, and again, I forget, I think we were talking about this after the Charlie Kirk assassination, because they were there. I think there's currently like, what was it? Like 130 people that are currently under investigation.
Probably more. Yeah.
Something, I think, within the Navy and the Marine Corps specifically, but something along those lines. But, the fact of the matter remains is like, if you are in the military, you do not have the same freedom of speech as a civilian. You don't. Like, that's the bottom line. And I don't know why that's so hard to like comprehend.
Ryan, I've been saying this. I've been saying this since I started the Drugograd brand, like when I was in the Army. Like the fact that there's uniformed service members that are politically active online.
Yeah.
Like is just bonkers to me. It's bonkers to me. I don't care what side it is. I don't care left or right. Like just shut the fuck up.
I know it drives you crazy. Yeah, because you've
I see it. I get screenshots.
Yeah.
People text me, email me, DM me every single fucking week about service members from all branches, all MOSs, all ranks doing this. It's fucking nuts.
And also, it's just kind of stupid on their part.
It's so stupid, Connor. It's so stupid.
By the letter of the law, you're undermining the chain of command. So don't be surprised if you get in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. I think it's, what I think it is? I think it's like, again, if you look back, one of the things that was happening around the Charlie Kirk assassination and people were coming back, then you have other people that are veterans. It was Amy McGrath, who's she was a former Navy pilot. She's she was going, outrageous on Twitter, telling, defending their First Amendment rights. And I'm like, You
don't have First Amendment.
Retired lieutenant colonel. How do you not know how this works? So it's like baiting these young officers into like, say whatever you want. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. So I don't know. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's how I feel about it. And I don't really, I think they should be monitoring the military social media accounts 100%.
I even said,
I don't feel bad for any of them on either side. Like, you can't talk politics on your social media. You just can't.
Also, every active duty service member, actually even National Guard reservist, they just need to have a private profile. If you're doing something, you need to lock that shit down.
But they don't. Like, if that defeats the point. Do you get it? It defeats the point of what, then they don't get the viral TikTok. Like,
true, but we should be focused on other things, and command should take notice of that too. Like,
exactly.
Connor, what also upsets me too? Like those long ass like monologues that soldiers and officers post in uniform when they sit in their car. Like,
they're kind of funny though. Some of them.
I know if it's, I guess, but it just looks so like, it's just such a bad look.
Well, here's another question to that. There are also, there's this side of things, right? There's monitoring like what people are saying that goes against the oath that they take when they serve in the military. Then there's also kind of this rise of the active duty influencer. And there are so many, which I kind of think is wild. Like,
I agree with you. I don't think they should be doing that. I don't think they should be making any sort of money. If you're doing anything in uniform, you should not be making any money.
They are.
Also too, like, I know they are, and I don't agree with that because I don't know. If you're in the military, you should just be following orders. You shouldn't be influenced to do things one way or another. You should just be following your chain of command and what your chain of command tells you. And listen, I get it's 2025 and social media is very prevalent, but I think there needs to be a hard line drawn in the sand. And I think right now we've gotten a little far off course, and people should not be posting a lot of the content that they do while in uniform.
I +1 to that, Cons. I also think the Sec Army and all the secretaries of their respective branches could probably get a little tougher on that. And I think it really does start at the top.
So here's my question, because, getting back to that original thing of like, a cadet or a midshipman, they by law cannot like have another job. Right. So they can't, my daughter used to work in the summers, and when she had her break this summer, she can't work. Right. Because she's not allowed to have another job. But these influencers are getting they're getting paid. They're getting
paid.
And
it's not just more. Paid. It is a fucking good amount of money, because I've been on some of those deals.
Yeah.
As a veteran, and I know what the CPM is. My own rate card, I have one. I know what these people in uniform are making, and it's fucking disgusting. And the fact that it does still happen is mind blowing to me.
All right. So what do you say to the people on the other side who say, well, they don't get paid enough, so we need to let them make more money? I'm asking.
Like,
I don't have an answer for that. I think
because I think guys and girls have been doing this long before social media. There were people who would, bartend on the weekends in a town nearby where they were stationed, or maybe they were coaching a sport in some form or fashion to where they were trying to make extra money. So this is not something new. But so what do you think about people just trying to earn more money to support themselves and or their family?
But I think what these influencers are not trying to make enough money to support their family. And we all know who we're talking about. And listen, some of them are our friends, but they're not trying to make ends meet with what they're doing on social media. So I don't know that that's a valid, that's not what they're doing. So
and I think they're using their military.
They're getting rich. Yeah.
Connor, I think they're using their military status for a profitable advantage, which, if you go to your question, the bartending, the coaching on the weekends, the moonlighting, whatever, it's a little more less in your face and abrasive, right? Like, they're not doing that in uniform. There's maybe a little more tact to it. It's like a clear, like, hey, I need this to support my family. Like, the intent, the motive there is a little different and maybe more honorable if you have to go down that route. But the social media influencer stuff, like in uniform for a brand deal, is disgusting.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm not saying they're like asking for handouts, but it's almost as though, well, I'm in uniform. I'm trying to get more clicks, or you should click here because I'm in uniform. And you're almost trying to guilt people into giving you views and clicks because you're wearing your uniform, which I think is a little, not great.
I hear you. I hear you.
But anyway, moving on. You know what else is not great? And I don't know how you guys feel about this. It makes me kind of sad. I don't know why this makes me sad, but it makes me sad. So some stores out there in the country are reporting that they're no longer going to be able to provide exact change due to the penny shortage that is happening in this country, because the U.S. Treasury Department is no longer minting pennies. They just said, you know what? Waste of time, waste of money. We're not making any more pennies. So what? All the pennies that are out there, those are the only pennies left in circulation. So there's a penny shortage in some businesses like McDonald's, Love's, Truck Stop, Quick Trip. They are rounding to the nearest 5 cents on change and everything.
Lowest 5 cents.
Lowest 5 cents.
Rounding down, not up. Yeah.
All right. So what do you guys think about pennies going away?
I'm with you. I'm like kind of nostalgic about this.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah. I don't know why. And when we got that article, I was like, this same with me. I was like, it makes me kind of sad, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But from a practicality standpoint, you know, it's important to note that it is rounding down, and those cents and cents of hundreds of thousands of transactions is going to hurt the businesses, right? Mm-hmm. So you're rounding down 4 cents, 3 cents on every transaction. Like, I don't know, I'm showing up to pay with cash when I buy my Diet Coke now. At McDonald's, you know what I mean?
People are going to game it. To your point, Ryan, people are going to gamify it and then just see what they can.
And here's the thing: there's no clarity on what's happening with the penny. Like that was the one
going away. It's
like,
going the way of the dodo bird. It seems,
but
like.
It doesn't.
No?
They haven't fully announced that it's going away. They're just like, at this time, we're not printing more pennies.
So that's a good distinction. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is it like, are we never printing more pennies, or do we just currently have a penny shortage? And that's what one of the owners or founders of one of these stores, I can't remember which one, said like, we'd really like some clarity around this.
So do you think the penny becomes more valuable over time then? Like,
I don't know.
If you start holding on to it like a fucking Labubu or a TY Beanie Baby, I don't know. It does kind of suck. I grew up in the 90s. Like the penny was like our little, like, it was like our way to like barter and shit. Like it was like our little friend.
Or even when you like find the penny on the street, you know,
it's a lucky penny, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It made me kind of
sad. How often do you guys carry cash?
Never.
In Vegas all the time. I always have at least 20, 30 bucks, but like bills. I'm talking bills.
What about you? Yeah. What about you?
Almost never, but then I find myself in scenarios where I will go to an ATM because I want to have cash on me. Yeah. Predominantly so that I can tip people for certain things.
So the funny thing is I never have cash. I always am like, damn, I need cash, but I always do have change. So
in your car or like on your person?
Change in my purse. There's always change. Okay. Floating around in my car, in my like cup holders. I don't know why, but I don't know where it comes from.
For the longest time, I was trying to fill up. I mean, and this has gone back, 15 years. I was trying to fill up, a water, old Poland Spring, no free ads, water jug with change. I got it to like a quarter full, and then it just, I wouldn't say it screeched to a halt, but it really slowed, even with how much I walk around. And I would find change all the time in Hoboken for whatever reason when I lived there. But nevertheless, Alex finally made me like turn it into Coinstar. I had like $1,400, which was great because I forget we use it on like some sort of house project. But that is just another thing that just not going to happen that much anymore. But I just, it's just weird to see this evolution. And I think ultimately, if you had to predict, I just like cash is going to go away completely. Like physical
100%.
Bills will go away completely. Because I mean, Everybody
So-
pays credit cards, Apple Pay.
What's
Nothing.
interesting, yeah, when you say that, like I was at a hotel recently, and when I was leaving, wanted to tip the guy, and they did have scan codes for Venmo.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
been
oh,
been
Do
around.
you know
for a
how
while.
many? Do you know how
I
many
don't have
times now
cash.
I've seen lemonade stands from kids in my neighborhood and they accept Venmo? I'm
Oh,
like, good on
shit.
you.
That's
I'll
brilliant.
give you. Yeah, I mean it's smart because again, who has cash?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I have Venmo, and you're probably getting like $5 out of me for your $1 glass of lemonade if I'm Venmoing you. So it's just it's interesting to see how things change. But yeah, I wish. Actually, I don't know how I feel about this because I definitely
we
do
sound
need to have
so
cash.
old.
I
sound
know.
so
I get
old.
it,
God.
but let me tell you something, and maybe you guys will agree. There's something to be said for like if you're going somewhere, a hotel or a golf club, and someone performs a service for you and you hand them a tip in cash versus like, hey man, hey lady, do you have Venmo so I can Venmo you?
It's a
$5,
whole
$10.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, ugh, like it's just like an extra few steps which make it clunky, but yeah, I hear you.
So I don't know. We'll see. But yes, I do think we just sound very old with this
Yeah,
conversation.
you
All right,
definitely-
I'm gonna find all my pennies now.
R.I.P. pennies. All right, but anyway, let's throw it to the interview I did with Seth Mullin, the director of the new documentary Brothers on 3, which is going to be premiering on November 7th in Regal cinemas across the country. Documentary about Army rugby. And here is my conversation with Seth. All right, joining us now on the Bold American podcast is the director of the new documentary Brothers on 3, which is premiering November 7th in Regal theaters. Sean Mullin. Sean, welcome to the show. Happy to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. And I want to say I'm excited to talk to you because I think a lot of documentaries and movies have been made about West Point with West Point in the background. And it always seems like maybe a few things are not exactly right. However, you being a graduate yourself, I suspect you're going to be pretty spot on. So let's start right there. How did you find yourself at West Point?
Oh my goodness. Well, so I was recruited to play football there. I was recruited to play tight end, but the academies, they over recruit for their, their teams, especially their football team. Cause a lot of people drop out, when they get there. So I showed up as a tight end in the mid 90s there, and they had way too many tight ends already on the roster. They didn't have room for me to really play. And I was kind of upset. I was thinking about transferring, and, I ended up, finding rugby. An upperclassman came to my room and took me up to the rugby pitch on a Monday. I'd never touched a rugby ball, and I was starting on the developmental side that Saturday, and I just never looked back. It's just really the greatest sport I've ever, been fortunate enough to be a part of, and just the camaraderie of all the guys. It really just I've really been trying to tell a story about this program since I was a cadet. I graduated in '97, so it's been 28 years. It's been a 28-year quest to tell the story.
Okay. And where are you from originally?
I was born in Indiana. I lived in Indiana until I was about 9. And then when I was 9, I moved to Boca Raton, Florida, which is kind of like moving to Mars from Indiana. And I played high school sports down in Boca Raton.
Okay, got it. Because I'm just trying to figure out, like, when I got to West Point, if I wanted to leave, to get home to New Jersey would have been a pretty easy proposition. I think it might have been a little harder for you. So was there ever that doubt, like, I don't want to be here at all? Or you just needed to find that other path towards rugby? Because that is a common thing. There are a lot of guys who leave the football team and go play rugby who have never played before.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I mean, I definitely, I listen, I had a tough time, with it all. I mean, I think what kept me at West Point was the rugby team. These guys are so close. The bonds are so tight. There's this really interesting kind of overlapping Venn diagrams where West Point is its own kind of very bonding kind of, collegiate experience, and then rugby is a very bonding sport. And so when you've got, this sport that bonds people so tightly at an academy that already bonds people pretty tightly, it really was amplified. And I just, I just fell in love with the team, the sport, and I wanted to tell a story about it. And I, tried for years after I got out of the military. I mean, I served, graduated in 97. It was kind of, business was slow for the Army in the late 90s. So I was in Germany. I was playing rugby in Europe, and I was an artillery officer over there. And then I ended up transferring to the New York National Guard, and I ended up going full-time to part-time. And so I started doing stand-up comedy and improv theater. I started writing really bad screenplays. I was like, hey, I want to live a creative life. And then September 11th happened. And I was the plans officer for Manhattan on September 11th, 2001. So I was in charge. Yeah. So I was a first responder at Ground Zero. So I spent the better part of the next 9 months down at Ground Zero. I was there the first 2 weeks full time, and then part time, and then back full time again for like about 8 months. I was the officer in charge of the soldiers down at Ground Zero, while I was doing stand-up comedy and improv theater at night. So that was kind of an interesting experience. And so I applied while I was at Ground Zero. I said, I want to live a creative life. Like, life is short. It was a really punctuating moment in my life to be down there and seeing all that. So while I was at Ground Zero, I applied to film school, and I got accepted to Columbia University's MFA program, which is right there in Manhattan. And so I went to Columbia in 2002, so fall of 2002. And then I go up to film school. We're still not at war with Iraq. We hadn't invaded Iraq until spring of 2003. So I go up to film school thinking, hey, this is going to be small little special forces ops. I had some buddies, of course, in Afghanistan already, doing all that stuff, rugby buddies. But I didn't think it was going to be a full-scale war. And then I start film school, and then I spend, 3 years getting my master's degree while my buddies are all fighting in war. And it was kind of tough for me to handle.
Yeah. Sorry to touch on that if that's a sore subject, but what's going through your mind right there? Obviously, like, the work you're doing at Ground Zero, incredibly necessary. And for New York to rebuild, that was absolutely where people needed to be. But then you have all these guys that you went to school with, maybe some guys you played rugby with, who are now overseas. And I have to imagine it was difficult, just as you said, in the 90s, nothing really going on for the Army to do. I mean, there were some, sporadic battles here and there, but nothing like full scale like what we saw in Iraq and Afghanistan. So how did that feel? You did your thing at Ground Zero, which was very appreciated, but then you have guys that are fighting overseas.
I honestly, it was, I mean, I felt bad not being this, as much as, listen, I know the war was, there, you can get into the politics of all, why the war was started and how it was run and managed, but it doesn't change the fact that, I've had a lot of really great friends over there, and I lost a few friends. And actually in the film, we talk about Ian Weichel, who was one of my teammates, class of 97. He was part of the task force that captured Saddam Hussein, pulled him out of the hole. And he was my rugby teammate, and he was killed over there. And we go through his story in the film. So it was tough. Yeah.
But again, I think I just want to go back to that service too, because you had to take some solace knowing, like, you were doing a major thing down there at Ground Zero. So was that then incorporated into your stand-up comedy, or are you thinking to yourself, okay, what is the polar opposite to what I'm doing during the day? Okay, I'll go tell jokes at night.
It was definitely too soon to be joking about Ground Zero itself, but I had started doing stand-up. I had started doing stand-up before. I was doing it all before the attacks happened. So I had already had, I had a manager. I was kind of doing the tri-state area. I had my own show on Stand Up New York on 78th and Broadway. I was actually making it as a stand-up, and it came to the point where I was either going to be a stand-up or a filmmaker.
Okay. And where did that desire to be a stand-up come from? Was that like you were always the funny dude in class? You were the funny dude at Beast? Where did this desire to be somebody to tell jokes for a living?
I mean, someone recently called me a buffoon, and I was like, well, you know what? That sounds like a dig. But if you look at buffoon, a buffoon is somebody who is ridiculous and amusing. And I'm like, well, you know what? I was ridiculous and amusing. So as a kid, so I definitely was always able to make people laugh, and comedy was always a big thing of mine. So, I did think I was going to be a stand-up comedian for a while, but, I took the branch to the filmmaker route, and I'm glad I did, but I'm still, still a big fan of stand-up.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you endured West Point, you served in the military. It seems like obviously those things shaped you, but you probably could have skipped all that and went right to stand-up comedy. So do you feel like your life took the proper route, or do you think you found comedy because you went through the hardships that were West Point and serving in the Army?
I think every life's, I don't know. I'm a bit of a philosophy guy. I read a lot of philosophy, and I think everybody's life takes the proper route. I think it takes the route, take the route you choose. It's the decisions you make who make you, right? So yeah, I have no regret. I never look back. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's different. I think my life is what I've built and what I've made, and I'm, very proud of it. I've now, this film will be my 7th consecutive feature film, independently made feature film that hits theaters, which is less than 5% of indie films actually make it to theaters. So I'm 7 for 7 so far. So I think I'm on the right track. I was able to make this because I made a Yogi Berra documentary a couple of years ago that did very well. And I took that kind of the capital from that, not necessarily the financial capital, but just the the kind of filmmaking capital and credibility from that, and I poured it all into this film.
Okay, you have credibility now. You've made 7 awesome films, and now you have this one that's going to be in theaters, as I said, November 7th, Regal Theaters. West Pointers don't typically go into the arts in general. You know, like if you look at just the, you know, the swath of graduates, guys are in finance, guys and gals are in tech, you know, guys and gals are in politics. You don't really run across too many people who are in the arts. And I think one thing that makes our school great is that you can usually lean on somebody within the network to say, hey, how do I do this? So beyond film school, was there any other avenue that you were able to lean on to help you get your start? And what was it like to start from nothing to be a filmmaker? Because I don't even know, how do you even start?
Yeah, I didn't know either. I mean, I had very creative parents. So my father, you know, my mother, you know, did a lot of acting and singing and stage work, and she was always very creative. And so and my father's a very kind of creative guy who's an entrepreneur. So I just grew up with this. I grew up with this like toxic positivity, if you can call it that. Like just like,
okay, I think I get what you're getting at there. But
you know,
yes.
like I just, you know, my dad's the type of guy who would play the lottery. He'd be like, "Oh no, yeah, tonight's the night for sure."
Yes,
You know?
okay.
It's like, okay, well, that's like, you know, on the borderline of like, what's this? You know, so, but he was just, you know, big poker player, big Vegas guy, big, just like my dad was just a real kind of gambler in a lot of ways, and in every sense of the word. And my mom was creative. So I just kind of, you know, I think that's what it takes to be a filmmaker. I think you can be creative and you got to be a gambler. You got to, you know, you got to know that. And then the West Point of it all, I'll be honest with you, I do get that a lot. They're like, oh, you went to West Point, you're a filmmaker, those couldn't be more different. And I push right back on that and say, you know, the best training you can have as a director is West Point, because directing is all about leadership at the end of the day. If I'm on set and I've got 100 crew members looking at me and it starts to rain and I've got to motivate and I've got to move, and the actors, like, it's leadership. It's just, it's commander's intent. It's all the things I learned at West Point. Like, film sets are, for better or for worse, incredibly hierarchical, and you know, and the director's at the top of that chain, just like the military. So I actually take it as you know, a point of pride that I went to West Point, and the fact that I learned all those incredible leadership tools, not just at the academy, but on the rugby pitch as well. Which, you know, rugby, as we get into in the film, I mean, one of the biggest stats we pulled out, that one of the big impetuses behind getting the film going was this idea that the typical West Point cadet has a 1% chance of making general, but if you play rugby at West Point, you've got a 3% chance. And that's just a massive delta. It's a 300, you know, why is it 3 times more likely? Well, is making sense of chaos. It is grit. It is all, a lot of these qualities that maybe are self-selected for rugby players that bode well towards leadership positions, but it's something we get into in the film.
Okay. And you talked a little bit there about your impetus. Was there one defining moment that you realized, I have to tell this story? Like, you were hanging out with some of your old rugby buddies and you thought, you know what, these stories would be great in a documentary? Or how did this project come about?
I'll be honest. The seed was initially planted my sophomore year at West Point. I mean, I started 93. This would have been spring of 95, where I did not for the documentary, but for the idea that I'm a part of something special and abnormal. And it ultimately evolved in this idea that, like, I would start looking around at other programs. And I personally believe, and it comes out, I think, across in the film, that the West Point rugby program is the most unique culture of any Division I athletic program in the country. I don't think I'm not saying it's better, worse, or whatever. It's just unique. When you get into the history and you know what the graduates have done and the legacy of the program, that's really what I feel. And so that started my sophomore year, because I was you can go to West Point for 2 years and you can drop out before your first class junior year, and you don't owe a day of service. You don't owe a penny to the government. So there was a part of me, my sophomore year, I was looking in, hey, do I want to go? You know, my brother's at University of Florida. I want to go to Gainesville and just like party with him, you know, like, and have a good time and you know, he, you know, and get a great education down there, you know, at a good cost as well. But I you know, ultimately decided to stay, and it was mainly because of rugby. And then I've just tried to tell the story over the years. I wrote a screenplay. So I wrote a screenplay about it, and that screenplay ended up getting some traction. We had an Oscar nominated director. We had the lead actor was Miles Teller, who's a pretty big actor.
Yeah.
It was about 10 years ago. And then an executive producer was Ridley Scott, who's a big rugby guy. So it was a really good package. And the financiers didn't want to finance a rugby movie, you know, in America. So it fell apart. And that was around 2015. And then I just kept plugging. You just don't give up. I just kept in the back of my mind. Then I made the Yogi Berra thing. I started getting into I started in the business on the scripted side. So I wasn't in documentaries, but I started making some documentaries, and the Yogi Berra one did very well. And I was like, well, if I can make a documentary, why not make a documentary about the team? And then I started following them the first day of shooting was October 23rd, which is 2021, 4 years ago. So I started filming 4 years ago, and I went to a match, and they beat Navy, and it was really incredible. And I met some of the guys, and I just followed them that season, that 21-22 season. They kept winning and winning, and they ended up winning the national championship in April of 22. And that was really, once they won the national championship, that was like, okay, that's our in. We're going to follow the team out the season. Can they defend the championship? That was the book. And we went to the Pentagon, and we were the first production to ever get Pentagon approval to make a documentary at the Academy with no distribution in place. It was just, which is incredible. And it was not just me.
Why is that so hard? Why is that so hard to get done?
I don't know. Have you spent much time working in the government?
Yes, actually. I mean, so okay, if that's the answer, then I understand it.
It's just hard, a lot of red tape, a lot of trust, right? They've got to trust that I'm not gonna, burn the place down. But I think why they bought it is myself and my main creative partner in this project. His name's Brian Anthony. Brian was captain of the 2001 team, and he's my writing and producing partner on this film. And he, so I was 97, he was 01. We knew all of the kids I trained kind of trained him. So we were kind of bonded in that way. He's a very successful television writer out here in Hollywood. And so we've known each other for years. And he was, the first person to come on board with me, that we kind of teamed up initially to get this thing done. And I think the fact that he was captain of the rugby team, I was on the rugby team for 4 years, and the fact that he's had a successful career in TV, and I've had a successful, film career. They rolled the dice on us. I'm glad they did, because I think it turned out, beautifully.
Yeah, but how much of it a dice roll? And obviously, you're looking back. Hindsight is 2020. And no, I want to give you credit here, because to do a scripted film about the rugby team at West Point, I'm sure it would have been great. I love Miles Teller. And, he's shown in other films where he can do the physical aspect of acting, but I have to imagine some liberties would have been taken, and it would not have felt as genuine versus a documentary with two gentlemen at the helm who live this experience. So it's like, well, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, go ahead. Do whatever you want to do.
They must have felt the same way, I guess. And so we were really lucky, and I'm really thankful to the West Point Public Affairs team and the superintendent. We had two superintendents. We ended up having to run it by because there was a change of command. I mean, this is how long this has been going. So, but we've gotten tremendous support from the Academy, from the superintendent's office, and from everybody. And, just again, really proud of how it turned out. And, it went from, they went from having this incredible season to a very, very difficult season. And what ends up coming out in the documentary is this idea that, loss tends to be a better crucible for leadership than victory. This idea that, great leaders aren't really measured by how much they win, but how they handle loss,
No, you're absolutely right. Because so for context, I graduated in 06, played football. So I was on the 0-13 2003 team, which when you're going through it in the middle of it, you're not thinking like, oh my God, we're losing every game. You're going up to the stadium every day. You're going to practice. You're still putting in the work. You're trying to win every game, obviously. But I think back now to my teammates from that team and what that team has produced. Yeah. And I absolutely understand and can relate thinking about some of the leaders that those teams have produced. What makes rugby now, aside from the fact that, rugby is an interesting game and I love the game of rugby. I've never played it myself, but I love watching it. And I think that the sport itself is awesome. But what is it about the rugby team that makes it unique from the football team at West Point, from the lacrosse team, from the hockey team? Because I think every athlete at West Point would probably tell you like, yeah, our team was, had all those things too. But why do you think, and maybe this comes through in the documentary, why do you think the rugby team stands apart, aside from the fact that your guys' facility is way the hell further away from everything than anybody else down there on the river? Yeah.
They put us, we were way up in the mountains for years, and now we're way down by the river with, in the van down by the river. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm a little biased in this, obviously, right? I played on the team. And so I think I think what binds rugby players is the fact, we get into this in the documentary, but the sport itself is inherently dangerous. The sport itself is there's no pads. It's very gritty. It's tough. It's a tough sport. I think, the tougher the sport, the closer the bonds, I think. And so I think the football team, I think the lacrosse team, I'm sure the wrestling team, I'm sure all these teams have super tight bonds. I'm not trying to this is not a competition at all. But that being said, I just know there are certain unique, and we get into it in the film. I can't wait for you to check it out. Again, we're hitting theaters here November 7th at Regal Cinemas. We don't have a streaming partner yet, so we're using this theatrical launch to suss out all of our streaming partners. But we'll land somewhere, and when you do check out the film, I think you'll see there are certain aspects of the culture that I just find super unique.
Yeah. No, I can relate, because again, I'm thinking of the guys that I know that played rugby. And it is a unique sport. And when you look across the landscape, and help me understand, when you look across the landscape of college rugby, because I think to the stories, my dad played rugby at Dayton, and I think about the stories he tells me, and it seems like there's a lot of partying, a lot of beer drinking, which I'm sure there's, that aspect with Army rugby as well. But it almost seems to me what you're getting at is that it was more focused than that. And it was more, hey, we're here to do a job and not just party and try to get away from West Point when we can.
Absolutely. No, and listen, anybody who plays rugby will tell you there's a massive social aspect to the sport. And I think that's something that's really great and fun. And it definitely is some of my fondest memories of playing were those weekends out at Penn State or out at different colleges and having a blast and doing the drink ups with the teams and all that stuff. But really, when it comes down to it, it was those times on the pitch, on the rugby pitch, that really meant the most. And if you're an 06 grad, we do interview a few of the 07 guys. A few of the 07 guys are in the film. I don't know if you knew Andrew Locke or Brendan McCarthy or.
Yes, I do know Andrew Locke, because he played the same position as I did before he left the football team to go play football. So I know him. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Andy Locke's in the film. So, yeah, he was captain of the 07 team. Really great guy. So. Yeah, I mean, the rugby, I know there's something about the rugby guys. It's a unique group. And what was so wonderful for me is, after graduating in 97 and going back all these years later, I mean, all these kids immediately, they're like my little brothers. I'm texting. Yes. I was up texting with them last night. They can't wait. A couple more in the trailer. I don't know if have you seen the trailer yet?
Yes.
Yeah. A couple of those guys, the guy who loses, his tooth, and they're just great guys. They're all my little brothers,
No, but you're so right. Cause I just think about the events I go to with, Army football players, guys in the 80s and 90s that I wasn't in school with. And it's like you were in the locker room together at the same time. The bond is right there, and you're talking to them like we were all peers. And obviously we have different experiences, especially, guys in the last 2 decades who have then gone on to deploy. And, how much of that is touched on in the film, the last 20 years, hey, we need these rugby players to now step up and be platoon leaders in combat. And this has been the best proving ground for them that they played rugby.
Oh, it's a big crux. That's a big piece of the film. Yeah. So I follow the storyline of my teammate, Ian Weichel, class of 97, who was in Iraq, and he was part of the task force that captured Saddam Hussein and pulled him out of that hole and did all that stuff. He was killed over there. We talked to him, talked to his widow, his son, who I held his son, Jonathan, when he was 9 months old at Ian's funeral, and then I didn't really catch back up with him until this film, and so there's a nice little storyline with him. We've got Larry Perino, who was a West Point grad rugby player. Who I don't know if you know Larry at all, but
Larry's been on our show. He's a fantastic guy, and obviously his story is
incredible,
well known, whether or not people realize it's well known.
Yeah, so he was one of the main lieutenants that the film Black Hawk Down was based on. So we talked to Larry. He's incredible. And then H.R. McMaster is the other guy we kind of put in the spotlight, who was a general who had this incredible, experience in the first Gulf War, leading this, this tank battle that is, Battle of 73 Easting, which is one of the most kind of, studied tank battles of modern history. And he was a rugger, and he talks about how, you're in it, and all the things they learn on the rugby pitch translated directly to combat. And so it's a big piece of the film.
Yeah. I'm not trying to pick a fight here.
Sure. Pick it.
Do the rugby guys have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder? You guys just won a national championship, recently. The football team gets the national attention. The Army Navy game is is an
Yeah.
institution in this country across sports.
Yeah.
We've enjoyed a lot of success recently with football. And the football team is a team that gets that national spotlight. And meanwhile, rugby team winning national championships. Now, for grads and guys like me, I pay attention to all the sports, and I think it's awesome, and I root for everybody.
Sure.
But you don't get that national spotlight. Does that kind of play a part in the toughness and the edge on the rugby team?
I mean, I think rugby is a different breed of animal. I don't think that's the spotlight's what we're looking for.
Right. You're not in it for the glory, right?
No, definitely not. No, we're in it for each other. We're not in it for that stuff. And the guys, listen, one of my best friends, best friends, Doug Chadwick, was a class 97 football player.
Yeah.
Doug,
I know Doug. Doug's a good guy.
Yeah, Doug's one of my best friends, and he played football. So I definitely have some close friends on the football team. But I will tell you, one of the, and I won't mention his name, but definitely the documentary we followed, a few of the guys came from the football team, and one of the guys came from the football team, and he talked about how just refreshing it was to be on the rugby team. Just the culture was just so much, I think less ego, less showtime, less all that crap, and all the stuff that didn't matter, and much more of the stuff that does matter. So again, I'm not throwing any shade towards the football team.
No, but I think it's just a byproduct of what we do at our school, because everybody has to go to the football games on Saturdays. Nobody's forced to go to any of the other games for any other sport. So I would imagine that everybody, especially during the years when I was there when we weren't doing well, you're like, son of a bitch, I got to go to the football game again, and we're gonna lose, and that sucks. So I can imagine how that divide happens. Ultimately we all graduate and we're all fighting on the same team, so you'd hope that those bonds could be repaired. But I could understand how a football player going to the rugby team would feel that almost sense of relief, right? Yeah. So I'm not surprised to hear that. If there's one thing, though, that you think will surprise people when they watch this documentary, whether it's grads or whether it's people who are just rugby fans or just a civilian, what's one thing that you think is really going to stand out and capture people with this film?
I think people are going to be blown away that this isn't a rugby movie. It's a movie. It's ultimately a movie about a resilient group of young men that I think portray the most authentic and refreshing kind of example of positive masculinity that I've ever seen on screen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The way they talk about love, they look each other in the eyes, they say, I love you. They hug each other all the time. One of the guys, I give 30 hugs at lunch. What the hell is this? It's just they're funny. They're just, they exude this kind of positive masculinity that's so needed right now. This country is so divided with politics. I think the other thing that will be surprising to people is I spent countless hours over multiple years with dozens, if not hundreds of ruggers. I guess there's about 15 a year. So dozens of ruggers. I couldn't tell you the political persuasion of one of them. Which I love. I couldn't tell you Republican, Democrat, who gives a shit. It's unity. And I think that's what this country needs right now is unity. I think that's hopefully one of the big takeaways is people walk out of this just being proud of not just, the team or West Point, but the country. And hey, this is a great, group of young men who are united and not divided. And so many Americans are divided right now. And I think that's why this film is so essential.
Yes. And I think what makes that even more impressive, I don't know the exact demographics of the rugby team, but you're talking about kids from all over the country, different races,
red, blue, blue, purple, whatever color, rainbow, you name it. You know what I'm saying?
It's they're there for the love of their brother right there next to them. So
yeah,
you're absolutely right when you say this is exactly what the country needs now more than ever. And listen, like I said, huge Miles Teller guy. I'm glad it's this and not that. I'm sure I would have enjoyed that, but I would have had to pick it apart.
That script is still around. It's called 15 Brothers. I don't know if it'll ever come back to life, but who knows?
Maybe we'll make it. Well, listen, it's been a long time since the Matt Damon rugby movie about South Africa, so maybe it's time.
Yeah, who knows? There's options on the table there's definitely a way to pull a scripted version out of this, but I'm focused on the doc for now. And I'm doing other docs. I'm doing a doc about another West Point grad right now. Buzz Aldrin. So working on that one. I'm working on
I've heard of him.
Buzz, class of 51, and he did a few things, and so that's a fascinating one. I've got 3 or 4 docs I'm directing right now, and then a few scripted things and some TV stuff, and I'm hustling.
Okay, awesome. I have some rapid fire questions, but one more question I want to ask you before we get to those. What's your process? How do you decide? Like, obviously, Buzz Aldrin, his life, his accomplishments, that's easy. Like, okay, we can go make a documentary about him. But what is your process for finding a subject for a documentary?
I have two metrics I like to apply to most of my stories. One of them is this idea of perception versus reality. So is the perception of this topic going to be aligned with reality? And if for every film I've made, this one too is. If you tell people I'm making a documentary about the West Point rugby team, like, oh, it's gonna be a bunch of fucking meathead, fucking, right? Robots. It's the antithesis. So Yogi Berra is, it's gonna be this. He's this bumbling idiot. No, he's the fucking best catcher, one of the best ball players ever walk on the diamond, right? So it's perception versus reality is a big one for me. And that's a big thing I look for. I don't want to tell a story. I call them Wikipedia docs. You might see these things.
Yes.
You could just Google them. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in flipping the script. So that's the first thing. And then from a narrative standpoint, I always try to, it goes back to Aristotle with crisis to catharsis, that movement, right? So the first act of a great story is a crisis, and the third act is always a catharsis. And so I typically try to apply that in the narrative sense. So, I've got a bunch of things, again, I went to film school. I've taught film in LA for 15 years in different universities and on faculty at different places. So I'm very well versed in storytelling. It's definitely my thing.
No, I think that's awesome though, because I think the American public has their thoughts about West Point, and sometimes I think some things they get right, but I think largely people are unaware of what life is like. So I can't wait for November 7th, Regal Theaters, for Brothers on 3 to be out there for people to get a look inside the rugby team and what a special team and special bond those brothers have. So let's just finish up here with some quick hitters here, just understand a little bit more about you and your West Point experience. What company were you in?
Let's see, I was I1 and then B3. So I1, we scrambled after 2 years. So okay. I1 for 2 years and then B3 bandits to graduate.
Okay, so what barracks did you live in?
Oh goodness, Pershing and Ike.
Okay, I was in Ike as well because I was in C3. Now they all have air conditioning now. They fixed them all.
C3 is C3 same battalion. That was B3. That was the same battalion.
Yes. What was your favorite mess hall meal?
Jeez, chicken patty with cheese dipped in a little corn chowder. Come on, I don't know.
Yes, but it was spicy chicken for us with the corn chowder. But yes, that was definitely my.
That's a good one. Real, yeah. Anything? They had like a 2-week menu, right? We had 10 meals we ate for 4 years. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
What was you're talking about? You're a philosophy guy. You took a lot of philosophy classes, I'd imagine. But what was your least favorite class?
That's a great question. My least favorite. I mean, I was into everything. That dirt class. What was that? The environmental. It was a little, dare I say, dry. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I was more of I loved physics. I loved math. Actually, I loved physics.
Okay.
Didn't like chemistry was hard, but it was.
I hated chemistry.
Chemistry is more memorization, but physics I was great at chemistry, and I liked the writing. I liked English class a lot.
Mm-hmm. And then I think that's
a law major. Yeah.
Okay, I was a law major as well, so I get that.
Law for West.
What was your favorite class?
My legal. I mean, I was the first cadet to intern the Supreme Court, and so I don't know if they did that. But yeah,
the closest we got to the Supreme Court was part of our con law class. We got to go down to DC one day and sit in on a.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite class. So I did that. Yeah. I did that class. I went down, sat in on it. I came back and I told my professors I was going to do my AIAD at the Supreme Court. They're like, we don't do that. I go, simmer. And so I faxed the Supreme Court. I said, hey. I'm a cadet. Can I intern there? And the Supreme Court's like, of course. And I took it to my professors, and they said, yeah. So and now they send cadets all the time to the Supreme Court, which is kind of cool.
That is awesome, and that makes sense now why you took a different path than most of the other people.
I don't really. Rules aren't for me. Yeah,
I like that. And then last one, what's your favorite celebratory weekend? Like Plebe Parent weekend, grad weekend, 100th night, whatever.
Yeah. Which weekend?
One? Yeah, which one was your favorite?
Well, the ones I didn't get hours for. I mean, I don't know. We got in trouble on most of them.
Okay. How many hours you graduate with?
69.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I got in trouble. 500th I got in trouble. 100th I think. I mean, ring weekend was probably. I mean, I don't know. There were ring weekend. I faxed. I took a group down to New York City, and I was as big as aging myself, late 90s, faxing all before cell phones. But I wielded a fax machine like it was my like it was a weapon, and I faxed the Waldorf Astoria and said, hey, we want to stay at the Waldorf Astoria. It's spring weekend, but we can't afford your room. It was like $400 a night. We can only, there's no way we can afford that. And I got a fax back from them saying, we'll give you rooms at $150 a night for your whole group.
Wow.
That was fun.
That's
So we went down
awesome.
I went down to the city and had a great Friday night at the Waldorf, and then came back up for the dance. So then got caught in the elevator. We broke the elevator. We jammed too many people in the elevator. The fire department had to come break us out. That was the least amount of trouble I got in at West Point, though.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Well, the film is Brothers on 3, November 7th, Regal Theaters. I'm very excited to watch. And I'll ask you, leave our audience with this. What is the one thing that you want people to think about going into this film?
Think about the importance of keeping an open mind and being open to new experiences and new cultures and new worlds, and the importance of unity right now, and the importance of our apolitical military, right? I mean, that's really the most important thing in my mind, is like, these are all people who, again, regardless of background, come together to unite for a common cause. And I think that's something I like people to go into this with and come out with.
Awesome. Well, Sean, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. Brothers on 3. Can't wait to see it. Thank you very much. It's going to be a hit. So
thank you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
So
appreciate
really
it.
proud. Yep. Thank you.
That was awesome. I think, my big takeaway from that interview was it was interesting that, there was originally going to be a movie with Miles Teller playing the main character. And then they realized this would be a much better story if we just tell it with the actual people. So I'm happy they didn't go that way with Miles Teller, as I mentioned in the interview there. But if you guys could have one actor be in a movie about a documentary about, let's just say, your life, who's that actor that you want? Not necessarily even playing you, but in
narrating,
narrating or playing another character in the movie. Who's that one actor you just like gotta have in your movie?
Oh God, that's
Brad Pitt.
Ooh,
Good answer.
I'm like a Brad Pitt stan, like a fanatic. Like,
what about you, Connor?
I realized as I was asking this question, I didn't have an answer. So I don't know. That's tough.
So I actually always used to think about, like, if there was a movie about Travis, I always kind of envisioned Miles Teller.
I could see that.
Yeah. So I kind of like that he was up for that. I don't think anybody could play me.
No?
Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, I get that sometimes, actually. I have gotten that before. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
You think she can do your accent?
What accent? I don't have an accent.
The Avalon accent.
What accent are you speaking of?
Brian, you act like you don't have a full blown Delco accent, but you have that south eastern, Pennsylvania accent for sure. Where some of your water, water.
I don't say water. I say water.
You just said the same word twice, by the way. So,
yeah, I think Reese Witherspoon could perfect my accent. I do.
I love Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, same. I could see Connor, for you. I don't know if it's like indirectly, but I feel like one of like your sidekicks or like a character in a Crayon movie could be like Casey Affleck or maybe even Ben Affleck. I don't know why, but I just get the vibe.
I agree.
Like, I feel like Casey Affleck could be his like plus one buddy.
You kind of look like him. It's true. Yes.
I've never heard that comparison.
Bald version of him.
Okay.
But kind of look.
And fun fact, Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck were both in all the Ocean's movies together.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like speaking of that, I like Matt Damon. Maybe we can get Matt Damon.
See, I was there. I was close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking like Born Identity Matt Damon, like cut, kind of chiseled, like, or what Matt Damon?
Oh man. That's a good question. No, I mean, I love him all the Oceans. It's hard to argue with the Bourne. I loved him in The Martian, though. He was excellent.
Oh yeah, that was good.
That
was good.
Wry sense of humor, which I really like out of him. I've always enjoyed his cameo that he did in Entourage season 6, where he plays himself.
Yeah.
If people remember that was always very good. All right. That's all we have for today. Do you guys have any caveats? Did we miss anything?
No, just
Nope.
I mean, once again, well done, Army. Congratulations on.
She's really rubbing it in.
Yeah, I'm just
Like she's overextending the niceties.
I'm not overextending anything. I'm just saying great game.
All
No,
right.
I didn't even talk about it. Let's be serious. Like, even if you were not a fan of Army or Air Force and you just watched that as a college football fan,
That's
It was
what
good.
I said.
yeah, it was a good game.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I said. I'm
Yeah.
not. There's no like. That's all I said.
Ryan, you will learn. I get riled up, but it's
I don't need to learn that you get riled up. That's been shown to me. I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Two things. An explanation. I grow my mustache out in recent years. If you look at pictures on social media that I posted, it's been a thing that I do from like October to like January, February timeframe. And the reason being is that I used to grow my full beard out, and I enjoy doing that. And then my wife finally put a stop to that. And she's like, I hate it. I hate when you have a beard. It's gross looking. Other people have said I have a very nice beard. I tend to agree with those people. But the compromise has been a mustache. And I also think it looks ridiculous. So it's just kind of fun to do.
I actually agree with your wife. I got to tell you, I think the mustache works better for you than
Me
the
too.
full beard. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Thank
agree
you.
with your wife. Yeah.
I gotta agree with that, especially with a
Yeah.
hat too. You can pull it off.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you got
Thank
the
you.
whole country club vibe going
Yeah.
on. It works. Yeah.
I like it. All right, let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go with that. Finally, something I learned yesterday that blew my mind. So I was wearing a pair of sneakers yesterday, and I felt my toes kind of like pushing at the edges, and I realized with a pair of my running sneakers, my toes were kind of pushing toward the edges, and I'm like, can your feet get bigger as you get older? Turns out
Yes.
they can, but they don't actually like
Whoa.
your bones. It turns out your bones don't get bigger, but what happens is the arch in your foot flattens. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
your bones are the same size, but there's
So
less
it goes
arch.
it goes flatter.
Yes. So I got to go to a store and measure my foot because I feel like I might be half a size larger than I've been for basically my whole adult life. And then I just started thinking about this because it's like, all right, if I'm actually going to run a marathon next year, I got to make sure my shoes.
Oh yeah, dude. You gotta start training now. You gotta start training tomorrow, Connor.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just but then the other thing.
Start training tomorrow. What are you talking about?
I'm
one
just
thing my
fucking
wife
around,
said.
Ryan.
What she said though was like, but you can't be doing that like really serious training regimen because that's really time consuming. And I agree with her there. I don't want to do that. I don't like the idea that I'm going to dedicate 3 hours on a Saturday morning to go run. No shot. Kick rocks. I love running. I enjoy running. I do. I don't like going on 3 hour long runs.
Well,
I'd rather use that 3 hours to go play golf.
Okay. Well, then we're going to go down a rabbit hole, but you're not going to, you're too old to run a marathon now and not think you're not going to do any long training runs.
Well, now that you've said that, I'm almost exclusively not going to do any long training runs
Great.
just to prove to you that I can do it.
I can't wait. You're not going to be able
It's
to
good
walk
content.
around.
It's good content, Cons.
Yeah, let's do it. You should not train. You know what? You shouldn't train at all.
No,
I don't wanna
don't do that.
If I don't
Don't do
train at
that.
all, that would be horrible because
Bro.
a multitude of things will happen. Number one, I will cramp and it will be brutal and I'll have to crawl to the finish. Number two, I'll just have a horrible time that'll haunt me in my dreams. So I still want to put up a respectable time. I still would want to go sub 4 hours. So
You think you're going to do sub 4 hours and not do any long runs?
I mean,
oh my God, I can't wait.
Listen. Yes, I'll be 42 at next year's New York City Marathon. So, is it realistic to think that the way that I quote unquote trained for previous marathons when I was younger and never did any long runs and came all of those under sub 4, that I could still do that again? Yeah, that's ridiculous. But I'm wired to think ridiculous things, so I might fall flat on my face. But again, it has less to do with following and being disciplined to follow a training program, and more about I have 2 kids and disappearing for 3 hours just to go run is not how I want to. If I'm going to disappear for 3 hours, I want to go play golf. I don't want to go run for 3 hours.
Remember how fast you thought you could run a mile? Just
no, that had less to do because I didn't train for that, but I did run a few test miles and I was in fine. But what I did differently when I actually did it for that race was I consumed a copious amount of red wine the night before until about 2 a.m, and I was severely dehydrated.
White Sox Dave, if he heard this right now,
I've already told him this. I've told him this privately. I've said this publicly.
He doesn't. Like
I severely dehydrated myself, and that was again. Now, this was okay. I used to do that when I was like 25, 26, and I'd be fine to run the next day and not be dehydrated. Now it appears I will be dehydrated if I do that. So I need to learn what the differences are if I'm actually going to do this marathon. So I might have to mix in something a little different, but I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
You got this.
All right. We'll see.
Love it.
All right.
All right. Love you guys.
Take care. Take care. Make it a great week.